But for those of you seeing me for the first time today, I wanted to use this opportunity to briefly introduce myself, building on what Chris kindly said. As Chris mentioned, my background's in physics, in particle physics, but with a fair share of astrophysics as well. Go back to the 90s, I was at the RAL summer school doing my particle physics there. My very first piece of research was on the Hubble Space Telescope, on the Faint Object Camera, funded by the European Space Agency. But sort of 25 years later, now we sort of find ourselves waiting the launch of Hubble's replacement, the Webb Telescope, in just a few weeks' time, hopefully on the 22nd, as Chris says. In the intervening years, I've worked in number 10, I've worked in regulation and in business. I've built a so-called unicorn. I've started a business more or less from scratch. And that's all been with me about bringing new technology, artificial intelligence, digital communications to bear on the big challenges that we face as a world. I'm pretty excited to be bringing that set of experiences to this new challenge, to this new job. And I can honestly say that my first impressions of the space agency and the UK space sector are tremendous. They're just fantastic. So a very big thank you to everyone who's made me feel so welcome. As a sector, I think we can be incredibly proud of what's been achieved over the last decade at least. In terms of growth, the industry's grown by 60%. We've got the incredible science and innovation and the advanced capabilities that the nation has benefited from as a result, and the planet as a whole. None of this happens without dedication and problem solving. Anyone who's involved in James Webb or the Rosalind Franklin rover knows just how hard it is, how working in space is never easy. So from the conversations that I've had right across the UK, literally from Unstall on the top of Shetland through to Cornwall, it feels like a sector that's something really quite special. And my aim is to work with you over the coming weeks, months and years to build on it even further. So the beauty of space, I guess, is its vastness. And it's easy to lose ourselves sort of contemplating the fundamental laws of nature, just what the cosmos really is about and our place within it. And there is a sort of corresponding vastness to the opportunities that we have to benefit from space, the full set of use cases for satellite applications, the inspirational missions we can embark on to further our knowledge. I'd like to say that my kind of calling to science was grounded in mathematical rigor alone. That's really not the case. Sci-fi, I guess, plays its role too, from Blake Seven to Doctor Who. And every day I hear about a new project or a new company starting up, a new innovation, a new discovery. So stretching the analogy, perhaps space sector is a little bit like the TARDIS. It's only once you're inside you can appreciate its true value, its endless possibilities. This makes space an amazingly exciting place to work in, right at the leading edge of what humanity can achieve. But for the space agency and for all the organizations that you're in and represent, it's also a pretty fundamental challenge. How do we focus our efforts on the areas that provide most value to the space community? It's not whether we add value, it's how much we can bring with the resources and time that we've got. It's a question I've come back to many times over the last few months. And I'd like to talk to you about the three areas of value, the three overall benefits that I believe we can offer you from the UK Space Agency. Now, around 90% of what I'm going to say has been informed by the conversations that I've had with people across the sector and across the agency since I started. So a big thank you for everyone who's engaged in those. The last 10% is more from the lessons I've learned from the rest of my career. The first way in which the agency will add value is by catalyzing investment, attracting more private capital into the sector from the UK and overseas. Our space sector spends more on R&D than many other national industries in the UK, but our combined public and private sector investment lags behind many other nations because they depend on a truly high subsidy from taxpayers. And extreme subsidy is just not the UK's model. Over the past decade, public space spending has grown significantly, but we need to make our money work much harder to meet the ambition of becoming the modern, agile, spacefaring nation that's truly on a par with our peers. Every public pound spent on space has to multiply its value up in private financing and contracts. I want to use the UK Space Agency. I want to ensure that it's focused on supporting the projects that have the potential to attract the highest investment across the UK and across the world and drive the long-term growth of the sector. And that is true across academia as much as it's true across industry. There's far too many spin-off benefits from academic and scientific endeavour for us to think that investment only comes from thinking about industry. So this means making sure our future innovation portfolio carries the right level of risk and reward, as that's the best way to ensure truly game-changing ideas capture the attention of the global investment community. It means exploring how best to secure the UK's leading share of emerging markets, like the ones highlighted in the National Space Strategy. In-orbit manufacturing, space-based solar power, active debris removal, deep space communications. And also, of course, it means investing in existing high-value sectors where the best science and technology is flowing, satellite communications, Earth observation being examples. And it means working more closely with investors and others to raise awareness of the enormous returns that space can offer, supporting the wider public sector as well, from local governments to regional development agencies, to participate in the growth of the space sector. There's such a vibrant community of entrepreneurs and investors already in the UK, and we should make sure we're taking full advantage of how attractive the country is for enterprise, innovation and science. The second area is about doing the important things we all know government and the space sector needs to do: delivering space capabilities and missions. Space capabilities are integral to our national security and our prosperity. Science and exploration missions like James Webb, Solar Orbiter, XMRs push the boundaries of human knowledge, helping us to understand our place in the universe. It's an absolutely vital part of our role as the UK Space Agency to lead on these areas, drawing on the huge amount of expertise found across the sector and working with our international partners. When it comes to capabilities, clearly they don't all need to be owned and operated by the government. Our UK launch programme, for example, is about supporting the development of commercial satellite launch capability, not trying to build that capability within the government itself. And with the significant progress made on this programme over the past year, we're firmly on track to see the first launches from Cornwall in Shetland, aiming for 2022, and on the way to becoming the first country in Europe to offer such a capability. That would be a remarkable achievement, never before done on European soil. Another key capability is Earth observation, and I had the privilege of attending COP26 last month alongside some really great colleagues and partners across the sector. The role of satellites in monitoring climate change and informing effective climate action is undeniable, and having a presence at COP to highlight this was pretty invaluable. Let me say that it's fantastic to have the ESA Climate Office based here in Harwell too, and I know we'll be hearing more from ESA colleagues later. The importance of yet another capability really hit home a few weeks ago, and Chris mentioned it, when I heard from a member of our space surveillance and tracking team. They explained to me calmly and professionally that there had been a fragmentation event, a Russian anti-satellite missile destroying an old Soviet satellite in low Earth orbit. This generated a large debris field, posing an increased risk to satellites, as well as the International Space Station. It became a global media story, and the action was swiftly condemned as part of the coordinated response between UK and US governments. So space surveillance and tracking are vital to protecting the orbital environment and should be taken seriously in protecting the environment here on Earth. This is not only about condemning unacceptable actions like those of Russia a few weeks ago on the international stage, important as that is, but it's also about taking on our fair share of responsibility to conduct space operations in a sustainable manner and find solutions to help clean up the legacy issue of space debris. ESA estimates that there are more than 36,000 debris objects in orbit than 10 centimeters. That's the objects being greater than 10 centimeters. And around 1 million objects between 1 centimeter and 10 centimeters. I want to support the UK space sector in making a stand and taking a lead on space sustainability. And in that spirit, can I encourage everyone to listen into Harriet Brettle's talk later about the work of Astroscale in this area. The third and final area that I want to highlight, where we seek to bring more benefit, is about being a champion for space, so that we create an environment which everything I've mentioned so far has a true chance to thrive, because none of us operate in a void as a spacecraft does. We're part of a wider ecosystem and a wider community, and we have a responsibility to make sure that the value of space is understood by those who benefit from it. I want the UK Space Agency to be at the heart of inspiring people of all ages about space. That includes running education programs to engage school children and encourage them to pursue STEM subjects in school and college, particularly girls and children from underprivileged backgrounds, to improve their bottom line. It's about raking in order to understand and take effective action, including, again, providing solutions to the biggest challenges we face on space. It's an incredibly worthwhile and privileged and powerful position as a national space agency environment in which space can thrive forward into what to expect from me and from the space agency as we move into what promises to be an incredibly exciting period for the UK in space. The three areas I've just described have helped shape the agency's thinking about how the sector has happened to date. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to share them with you today. Throughout my career, I've valued the ability to have honest, open, frank discussions with colleagues, partners, and obviously competitors. And it's very much in that spirit of openness and collaboration that I'll approach my role in the UK Space Agency. I'm confident that we can navigate the vastness of opportunity together. I can't wait to see what we will achieve. Thank you for listening. I'm looking forward to meeting more of you soon and to the Q&A, which I think is following. Chris, I think it's back to you. I think you might be on mute, Chris.
Sorry. I'm really glad my village has got good broadband. We had a bit of technical trouble there with you, Paul. I'm afraid you froze a bit.
Oh.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. It was very interesting. I just wondered, what do you see as the major challenges that are facing you as the new CEO as you step into your role?
So I should probably give the correct answer of it. They're all opportunities. There are challenges because we're there to deliver the national space strategy, and we can't do that in a vacuum, and not least because lots and lots of other countries are pursuing similar agendas. And I mentioned the importance of bringing in the investment. There is that you can sort of buy your way out of these things by just investing more and more taxpayer pounds, but that isn't the way that it'll ever work for us. We will get more investment, that's the aim, but we do really need to make each pound count more. And it's not as if we can wait 5 years or 10 years because of the speed at which other countries, both commercially and sort of state level, are moving. So I think one sort of very real challenge that we face is to make sure that we move now, that we really move into delivery. We've got a space strategy, now really is the time to execute on it.
Okay, well, on behalf of my kind of academic colleagues who are asking questions, I mean, how do you think the academic community, there's a lot of talk about, the need for industry investment. How do you think academia can help you in this endeavour? Yeah,
so a really fairly significant proportion, a very significant proportion of the total spend from the agency just goes directly into core sciences, as you know, Chris, into discovery, into exploration, fundamental physics. And it will stay that way because I don't really buy that there's, that there are separate silos, and we simply know that's just not true in the way that we're already collaborating across academia and industry. So I guess I talk a lot about space being a team sport, and I really mean that, because we are all in this together. We have roles to play, and we need to understand what those roles are, but we have a completely shared purpose. And I would, for all the academic colleagues, focusing on the most important science, helping the agency to understand, maybe that's the most important thing, where the right investments should be. Where do we put our pounds so we do the very best science, but with that clear out to how that science has either direct benefits, if it's in that sort of arena, or helping also to understand the spin-off benefits where it's more fundamental science. I think that can only help, but I really don't think that talking about catalyzing investment is only about thinking about the industrial point of view. My background's in fundamental science, and I'm determined that sector
I think we'll all be
prospers within.
We'll all be reassured by that, because so certainly we panic a bit about that. We've got Joanna Hart's asking you a question. She says, you've highlighted the wealth of opportunities that we have, the vast opportunity. We clearly can't do everything. How do you plan to prioritise?
Hi, Joanna. So framing those three areas of value, the catalyzing investment, the national capabilities of missions, and the championing space, is I think it's important for talking about, but it is so much more than that. That's the whole framework under which we seek to set priorities. Now, being a space agency, we're part of government, we're part of BAIS as the government department. So our priorities are ultimately set by BAIS ministers. What we are suggesting is we're using those areas of value to define a smallish set of priorities and having the conversations right now about which of those are most important to the government in the context of the national space strategy, and which of those are deliverable on which timescales, with obviously the amount of money that we'll receive from the comprehensive spending review. So those sources of value set the priorities. And for the avoidance of any doubt, those priorities also then set where we resource things within the agency, and the skills and capabilities that we have in the agency and seek to bring in. And I would just say one thing a lot of people have told me is that the closer the relationships between the agency and academia, and between the agency and industry, and between the agency and investors, the better. So we're going to be also investing in our own relationships with yourselves to make sure that we truly understand what's going on.